Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Today we're continuing book 6 of the Ethics, the Intellectual Virtues, and today we're looking at chapter 11, which deals with the question of judgment. And, this is interesting because one would say that, and this is the word that, history of political thought and political science looks at the question of judgment, right? This is why Kant's third critique is so important. But here, Aristotle here gives us the framing of what judgment means in this sense, after dealing with the conception of between learning and comprehension, right? And then this idea of what comprehending is uh, in terms of science. That was just before it, right? And now today we're looking at chapter 11, which goes into the very strict. So it's going to be short in that sense, but let's look at it. And what is called judgment? In reference to what we assert that people are sympathetic to judges, to judge, and have judgment. Now here, 52. Let's do the phrase sympathetic judgment translates the word sugonomenia, which root is in the word of judgment, gnome, to judge, gnome. This is where gnosis comes from, right? Systemic judges, sugonome, may be translated as forgiveness as well. So therefore, this is interesting that we understand that sympathetic judgment, we translated in book 3, chapter 1, we looked at that. We translated that as forgiveness. Sympathetic, this idea of sympathy, of looking for it, but it's a form of nome. And it is a form of judging, making a judgment, they say. So that we have sympathetic judges who have sympathy towards us, or to have we translated this as forgiveness, right? Before, open to looking at us favorably or not condemning, forgive, right? Sympathetic judges have judgment. We assert that people are judges who can have sympathy, right, and also have judgment. Is the correct decision as to what is equitable. So, in other words, having judgment and being kind of sympathetic, or at least not condemn, understanding. This is what we understand is equitable, right? What is equitable? So that we return to the equitable in book 5 here. Remember, chapter 7 here in judgment brings us to the discussion of equity back in book 5. So this is why this is important. This now links, we start linking the intellectual virtues to the other virtues in that sense. Well, here we're linking it to equity, the question of equity and justice, right? There is a sign of this. We assert that the equitable person is especially characterized by sympathetic judgment. Now, remember, the word sympathetic judgment here is literally a sugonomia, right? Judgment is sugonomi. So therefore, sympathetic judgment, sugonomi, which is kind of a again in book 3 we turned in book 3 when chapter 1 when this word came up, he did it as forgiveness, right? I argued that maybe we should read it as pure forgiveness. It means something. It means being open towards or not condemning. Okay. And it's not that they believe it's correct, but that someone has done it wrong, but you have a sense that, well, you understand why they did it. It was an understanding that it wasn't done out of vice or bad intent, but rather weakness, or lack of something in a sense. We'll talk about this, and we'll talk about the question of lack of the lack of self-restraint, as the translation, or akrasia, akrasia, right? Akrasia is the lack of it, akrasia, which is sometimes translated as weakness of will, but I disagree with that, because will is bringing will into the concept here is something that opens many cans of worms that you don't really want to get into here. So sympathy, in other words, in some matters, is an equitable thing. So therefore, we assert that equitable persons are persons characterized by sympathetic judgments. Again, sugonomy, and that having sympathies, in that sense, sympathy, which is sugonomas, right? Or openness towards it, right? Being open towards it. Sympathy in some matters, not all matters. Remember, that's important. Some matters, not all matters. Then having sympathy in some matters is an equitable thing. Sympathetic judgment is a judgment characterized by a correct decision as to what is equitable. It is being correct because it grasps what is truly equitable. So, in other words, understanding what is truly equitable. Remember, equity involves some kind of, what is really balanced, what is proportional, right? Understanding the proportionality of response, and the question of judgment, and the question of was this intended, the wrong that was done or the error that is done, was it done, why was it done, and to what reason, why was it done, and that was it intended or unintended, was it done from ignorance, intended but done of ignorance but done of intention, or not, lack of intention, or just ignorance of what is right. These things are kind of what we say, what judges this kind of thing, the correct division of what is equitable. Being correct because it grasps what is truly. So it grasps, in other words, this is the connection of this. It is only reasonable that all the characteristics tends towards the same thing. So all the characteristics tend towards the same thing. For in attributing judgment, comprehension, prudence, and intellect to the same person, we mean that they have judgment and intellect already and are prudent and comprehending. So remember, this is what he's doing. He's tying up the things together: judgment, ending with judgment, comprehension, prudence, intellect. Now, intellect was the ability to grasp those the arche of things, the first principles, the things that are to grasp what is usually understood in basically tied to what is noetic, right? The noetic, nous, in that sense. Um, let's read that line again. Okay, all characteristics tend towards the same thing. So therefore, judgment, comprehension, prudence, and intellect. We mean that they have judgment and intellect already, and are prudent and comprehending. For all these capacities are concerned with things ultimate and particular. So therefore, these are things that can both ultimate. Now this is interesting. Ultimate is the highest, most important, the final, and particular. Not general, not universal, not absolute, not the things of theoria, but the things of praxis. And this is the interesting point. And this is where Aristotle will differ from, let's say, a postmodern who deals with practice. In other words, there is things that are ultimate, things that are the highest and the most important, that are found in the particular. Therefore, this is, in this light, Aristotle is not a relativist, and that the transcendent can be found in the particular. In other words, the fundamental things are not just only found at the level of theoria, the level of the never changing, the always constant, right? The things that are or are not, right? Rather, the things that come into being and pass away, praxis. The ultimate things are found as well there, but they consist of a different characteristic and are approached differently. For all these capacities are concerning with things ultimate and particular, and someone being comprehending and of good or sympathetic judgment consists in his being skilled in deciding the matters with which the prudent person is concerned. So therefore, the kind of matters that, in other words, a person who is being comprehending and of good or sympathetic judgment. In other words, there's good judgment, correct judgment, understanding it, but also sympathetic, and that means understanding it, opening up to the possibility of equitableness, right? And being skilled in deciding, making a decision, and deciding the matters in which this prudent person. For the equitable things are common to all good human beings. Now, this is important. For the equitable things are common to all good human beings, and they're being directed towards another. And all matters of action fall among things particular and ultimate. The prudent person must recognize them, and both comprehension and judgment concerning actions performed, which are ultimate things. In other words, the ultimate things here are both the comprehension and judgment concerning actions performed. So they have to recognize them, and also they have to recognize. The prudent person must recognize that what these things are. Must recognize. Let's repeat this sentence, because this is an important thing. For equitable things are common to all good human beings. It's equitable. The equitable is concerned to all good human beings, right? Agathon, anthropoi, and in their being directed towards one another. And all matters, again, highlights all. I think this is matters, fall, matters of action. All matters of action fall among things particular and ultimate. So all praxis falls into that concern with action, falls among things that are particular and ultimate. And the prudent person must recognize them. And both comprehension and judgments concerns the actions performed. So comprehension and judgment are tied to this. And this is what prudence is. Prudence is a kind of thus comprehension with judgment, right? Concerning the action, right? And concerning what? The ultimate thing, which are ultimate things. Now let's continue. Moreover, intellect is concerned with the ultimate things both in both directions, and what grasp both the first defining boundaries and the ultimate particulars in intellect and not reason. Okay, so let's go look at here. This is horos, the plural of horoi, on the plural of huros. Right, this is interesting. The boundaries, the first defining boundary. There's these boundaries, these borders. The first defining bodies. Now, the intellect, in other words, the intellect is concerned with the ultimate things in both directions. That is both the. I think he means that in terms of the ultimate, the particular, and also the absolute, the universal, not absolute, but the general, the universal, that which right applies to the border of these two things. Both directions for what grasp both the first defining boundaries, right, the borders, right, the horos, the horai, and the ultimate particulars. In other words, is intellect, nous, not logos. Interesting. It's not logos. It's not logos. It's the intellect. It's interesting. It's not truly enforcing. It's intellect is the grasping of what is true. So the finding of boundaries and the ultimate particulars, grasping both the first boundaries, the horai, the first defining boundaries, and the ultimate particulars. It's not logos. It's interesting. Not logos, not reasoning, not reason. It is intellect. So that's very important here. That is, on the one hand, intellect pertaining to in other words, that is, on the one hand, intellect pertaining to demonstrations grasps the unchanging first defining properties, boundaries of the archive, the first defining the archive, the starting point, the axiom, right? In other words, on the one hand, intellect pertaining to the demonstration, nous pertaining to demonstrations of science, right? Episteme, grasp the arche, the demonstration point, the starting point, right? Um, on the one hand, intellect demonstrates the unchanging first dimension boundary. Right? On the other hand, intellect in matters of action grasps also the ultimate particular thing that admits being otherwise. That is the minor premise. Okay, so that's the interesting. This is the major premise, and the minor premise is what? The major premise is the unchangeable. This is the unchangeable. The minor premise is in this line, that is the ultimate particular that admits being otherwise. It is the intellect that deals with this. For these ultimate particulars are the principles, okay, or starting points. I would think, I'd be careful here. I think I want to see what this means. I think this means arche here. I think he does mean arche here. Yeah, arche. I checked the Greek. I panicked for a second. I said, it is arche in that sense. So it is this weird moment here that these ultimate, in other words, let's do this line here. Other grasp of this. For the ultimate because are principles or starting points of that for the sake of which one acts. So why? Why are you acting? The end, the purpose of your action. The universals arise from the particulars in this case. In other words, the universals here arise from the particulars, the end towards which you are seeking to do. Why are you doing it? What is the purpose? Why are you doing this? Hence, so therefore, the ultimate particulars are the principles or starting arche. They're the arche, right? Of that for the sake of which one acts. So this it is the reason why you act. This is the arche, is that the sake of which you act. The first principle, the arche. Oh, this and actually to understand this connection, let's do this. Let's think in our mind. The arches here are the what? The mind, it is the reason why you're acting. It causes the action. It causes the action. Um, if you understand this, then you go back and look at, let's say, Book 5 of the Politics, and particularly Chapter 3 of Book 5, where he talks about the arche, the starting points of why change is produced, right? Metabole is produced. The 11 kind of causes, but also arche, starting points of why change happens, and arche as a starting point, the beginning point, maybe the end, not the end, but the triggering. Right, this is how that understands it. Well, here's that same thing. It's the beginning point. It is why this is being done, why this action is being done, in that sense. Um, and there's a difference between the application of it for understanding versus comprehension versus doing, right? That's the big thing, right? That is the big difference. Of these, then, one must have a perception. And this perception is intellect. So, therefore, to understand that, the grasping that for the sake of which, this is being done, you have to be able to grasp it, right? And that is and have perception. And this perception is intellect, nous. Hence, the things are also held to be natural And though nobody is held to be wise by nature, a person is held to have judgment, comprehension, and intellect by nature. So, wait a minute. Interesting. Even though people are not wise by a person, it is not, nobody is held to be wise by nature. So, this is different. This is it's not wisdom, but a person is held to have judgment, comprehension, and intellect by nature. Very interesting, this point here, that wisdom may not be something human in that sense. Wisdom is not maybe true wisdom. Maybe having wisdom in this sense, having Sophia in the thing, may not be something in the grasp of the human. But therefore, the human can only pursue or desire it. Rather, and therefore, it's not by nature for man to possess Sophia, wisdom. But man, human being, is able to possess by nature. It does. In other words, a person, a human being, is held to have judgment, comprehension, and intellect, nous, by nature. A sign of this is that we suppose these accompany in various times of life, and that a given time of life of life is possessed of intellect and judgment on the grounds that nature is the cause of them. So therefore, okay, in other words, as the human being matures and grows, man has it, but then it doesn't come into being until a certain time, he's saying here. In other words, a sign of this, as we suppose that those accompany with various times of life, right? And that given time of life is possessed by intellect and judgment, and on the grounds that nature is the cause of them. Hence, intellect is both a being and a beginning and an end. Nous, intellect is both a beginning and an end. For the demonstration arises from these and concerns these. Now, Bernard notes these words break the argument here. And Bywater, together with several modern editors, although not Burnett, suggests placing the sentence immediately after the sentence that ends above. Again, this perception. This perception is intellect, right? So therefore, the word breaks. The words break the argument here, right? He says. And they say you should add this, that placing this sentence immediately after the sentence above that ends. Above, so no, so this is no, that's not. I mean, here both intellect is both a beginning and an end, and demonstrates a rise from these and concerns them. So okay, so therefore, instead of moving it earlier to that thing, right? This perception is intellect, because some translators move this here to here. But Aristotle, I think it's Burnett doesn't, and I think it's maybe correct not to. It makes sense. There is a reason why this. You understand it, that it's beginning and end the end, and for demonstration arises from these and concerns them. As a result, one ought to pay attention to the undemonstrated assertions and opinions of experience in older people, or of the prudent, no less than to demonstrations. For because they have a experienced eye, they see correctly. In other words, at a certain stage of life, a certain maturity, and maybe of certain peoples because of their life experience, too. In other words, it's a certain maturity plus life experience that leads them that allow that has that has awakened what is in their nature, the ability of intellect, and in other words, they comprehend and see. They have comprehension, and they see. They have they are what they are. They have They have comprehension and judgment, and intellect by nature. And so therefore, they have intellect and judgment. Intellect and judgment is there because at a certain time the comprehension within them is something that is something that triggers them to their ability to comprehend. So therefore, this is the idea that older people and opinions of experience in older people or of the prudent, they're undemonstrated assertions. In other words, demonstrated assertions are things like arguments, these kind of rational arguments. That ironically, people should not only pay attention to rational arguments, but the honest demonstrated assertions and opinions of experienced people and older people or of the prudent, no less than demonstrations. Why? Because their experienced eye, in other words, their experienced eye may, their life experience, or that they have their life experience, may open up. They may know. They may possess the natural intellect and judgment to know what is right. And this is not something achieved through reasoning in a sense. Okay, not through argument, through demonstration, right? And because they may have experienced eye, they see correct. They see what is to be done, what is to be done here, the thing that to be done, and how to do it correctly. So, and this is natural by nature. This is interesting. Aristotle here asserts the natural understanding that it is in the possibility through life experience, certain life. In other words, it's in the possibility of man in his nature, but then something triggers it in their life. The life, something in life experience, all of a sudden triggers it, and it becomes manifest in it. And it's through age or life experience. In other words, life experience in that sense that creates it. And it is it gives them access to the archaes in ways that demonstrations may not be able to. They understand the ultimate, what is it? The particular ultimate, right? The particular and the ultimate. What is the particular ultimate action, the particular end of this? Why the act of why something needs to be done? So let's end the chapter here. What prudence and wisdom are then, with what each of them happened to be concerned, and that each of the virtues is a different part of the soul has been said. So therefore, virtue and wisdom, right, what they are, what each of them happens to be concerned with, and that each is the virtue of a different part of the soul. Okay, remember, what is prudence is about the active product, the praxis, and the wisdom is about the ultimate but universal, right? The one is the part of the soul that deals with the particulars, the praxis, the particulars coming to be in practice, coming to be and passing away, right? The contingent in that sense. Whereas the things that are eternal or never changing, the unchanging, those that are and those are not, this is a different type of soul, the part of the soul, right? That's the contemplative, or the theoretical, the theoria, right? The realm of theoria. So let's stop here, and he says we're stopping here. So we end of a stop regarding prudence and wisdom. Now, we will now turn to the next part of chapter 12, but that's what we'll do next. We'll stop here. So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please put them below, um, and when I see them, I respond to it. If you liked it, like the videos, please like the video, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. Share it far and wide. Share it in your social media, share with your friends. Bring your attention. I can see people saying, "Hey, what happened? Where's the beard of yesterday?" Well, I shaved. It was shaved. I've Easter's coming up, and my wife decided to needed to make me human, or at least respectable, right? But so if you like it, hit it. If you didn't like it, you can always say no, but say why so in the comment so everyone can learn. Maybe you didn't like something, and well, if you think I'm wrong about something, say it in the comments, and this way someone can be. This is again, we're doing this not. This is about understanding the text, studying the text for those of people who wants to understand it. Now, if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you're new to the channel, please think it. You can go see. You can always see that. You don't have to subscribe to see the other art stuff I've done, but it helps the channel grow and helps to get get people more attention to the channel. And I think if you found it useful, maybe others will find it useful. So please encourage them to come to the channel, and if not, and if they want to, encourage them to subscribe, because the more people I get, the more little goodies I can get from YouTube. Um, Now, the thing is, you want to follow me on social media. My social media links are below. If you want to follow look at my scholarship and my research and things like that, know more about me as a scholar and a teacher, you can look at the academic social media links below the social media links. And if you want to help to do what I do and doing this project, this extra project that I do, which consumes a lot of my time, but um, not as much as perhaps I've been should. I've been doing other things, been covering a little bit, but assistance helps. So you can do so through Patreon or Subscribestar, links below, or you can buy one of my books through either your local bookstore. I have 3 books listed below that are commonly are available at now. Um, you can buy them at your local bookstore, through your local bookseller, or through an online bookseller such as Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or through the press. If you buy it through Lulu, if you're looking at my notebook, Aristotle's Politics, buying it from Lulu would probably be better for me because I'll get the money the bookstores get. Okay, well, take care and have a good day. See you. Bye bye.